Hey mamas. Hi Tonia. How's
Hi.
everybody? So first of all, I just want to say to all the moms that I hope will be tuning in today to this conversation is that I hope you're safe. I hope you are healthy and your families are healthy. And I hope you're coping with this extremely difficult, scary situation that we're all in. And if you don't know me, my name is Maria Collin Goodman, and I'm the founder of Mama's Got Mojo. And today I have invited my dear, dear friend, Tonia Percy, that you see on the other side. She's a dear friend and my former roommate. And we're going to have a conversation today about homeschooling because that is what is on all of our minds all day. And Tonia's going to help us out with some.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here.
Yes. How are you, Tonia? It's good to see you.
Good.
Good.
Crazy new reality we're in.
Yeah.
So day by day.
Good, good. So first of all, I want to introduce you properly so that everyone understands why you are the person to talk about homeschooling. And I have to read it because your list of credentials is long. So Tonia is an educator, speaker, and coach, and founder of Literacy with Ease. She provides workshops for teachers in literacy instruction and curriculum development. She has a master's degree of education from the Teachers College at Columbia University, and she's currently a literacy coach for North Carolina State University, where she supports teachers. So today, Tonia is going to coach us so that we can survive this and be maybe a little bit better at homeschooling. So let's get to it, Tonia. Both you and I have been talking to a lot of moms lately about the situation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stress, there's a lot of anxiety and worry out there.
Absolutely. I've been talking to a lot of moms too. So I'm all of those things. I'm a teacher, but I'm also a mom myself. So I'm also going through exactly what all of you are going through. I'm at home. My 7-year-old is running around. I'm trying to balance being a mom, being a worker, keeping the household running. So I understand where everybody is currently. And so one question I get a lot is this whole idea of homeschooling. What am I supposed to do? What is it supposed to look like? And before I go into that, I want to say that what we are doing right now is not just homeschooling. It's way, way bigger than that, because if you were homeschooling, traditional homeschooling, you would have researched the curriculum prior. You would have a community of other homeschooling families that are doing the same thing as you. You would be able to have children interact with their friends during extracurricular activities, and now we're all staying home. So this is sort of homeschooling plus, homeschooling on steroids, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
So we commend you, and we're going to try to give you some tips today to make it a little easier. Yeah. So one question I get a lot is, how do I schedule the day? What is that supposed to look like? And the most important thing to keep in mind is there's a difference between a routine and a schedule. I think that having a routine every day is definitely the thing to do. You know, we get up, we have breakfast, we do some schoolwork, we take a break, we have some more schoolwork, we do lunch. But that does not mean that you need to have it at 8 a.m. we are going to start, and we need to. I find that children end up having they rebel against so many things that if you can be a little bit more flexible in the schedule, you have them on your side to begin with during the day.
And that's exactly what I thought going into this. I'm now on day 4, where most of my community of moms have been doing this for 3 weeks already, but we had a long break. And I thought it was going to be, exactly the school schedule that my son would normally have. But from day 1, that kind of was out the door immediately. So
yeah, I mean, think about the average school day. A teacher has to give attention to so many children. When you're homeschooling, it's just you and your son. So the amount of support and interaction he's getting is so much more intense, and therefore can be much shorter, because you are really just teaching him. So if he understands something, you can go on. If he doesn't understand something, you can stop and react to that at that moment. So the very first tip I give all parents that are trying to do this right now is, it doesn't need to take all day. I would say if you have a toddler, an hour and a half, maybe. If you have an early elementary school student, 2 to 3 hours. And if you have middle school and high school student, yes, it can get a little longer, but at that point, they should really be doing the bulk of their work independently.
Yeah. And then we also have the multiples. We have families that have 2 or 3 children. I'm lucky to just have to worry about one, but how
correct.
do you manage that?
One way I always look at it, and even if I have a work phone call, so if there's something during the day that requires my attention, so let's say I've got one child who will require my attention to do their math work, then I will make sure that for the other children, they're going to get something that they either like to do or can do independently. So as I'm planning my day, I'm thinking, okay, during which part of my day will my child or my children need my attention, and which part of the day can I not give attention because I am on a work phone call or I need to make dinner. So I schedule my days so that during those times that my child really needs me, I am available. And then during those times when I need, not alone time, when I need time to work, they are able to sustain themselves with activities that I know they can do independently.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Other things, I'm hearing a lot, oh, my child, they just don't want to sit down. They want to get up every 5 minutes and do something else.
Focus is very difficult.
Absolutely. But focus is something that needs to be built. It is something that can be trained. And this is a new environment for your child. And your child is not at school where school expectations are in place. So I would start with having your child sit for 5 minutes and attend to work, and then having them get up and move or do whatever they want to do for a few minutes, and then another 5 minutes. And then over time, increase the amount of time you're requiring them to sit. Whether it's sit and read or sit and do math or sit and color, doesn't matter. Start it with small increments and then increase them over time.
Okay. I've also spoken to moms that have kids in public school, for example. My son is not in public school, and the curriculums are very different and the course load is very different. So some kids have up to, and now I'm talking second grade-ish, like young elementary, they have up to 6 or 7 subjects that they have to manage throughout the day, and it's super overwhelming. So it's one thing to say, well, you have to take it step by step and 5 minutes at a time, but some parents actually have to turn in coursework at intervals every day and keep up with a very rigorous schedule. So
right, but for example, if you have a child in second grade, probably one of the homeworks is for that child to read independently for 20 minutes or a half an hour. Nowhere does it say that it has to be in one stretch. Maybe the child has 20 math problems. Nobody's telling you that you have to do all of those 20 math problems in one stretch. So having the child read for 10 minutes and then maybe do 10 math problems and then read for 10 more minutes and do 10 math problems helps their brain sort of not get bored and breaks the tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, some tasks you cannot do that with, like a writing assignment. It's a writing assignment. Yeah. But I do think that interspersing and sort of changing things up whenever you can is very helpful. Maybe the child can plan the writing assignment in one sitting, and then they get to get up and do freeze dance for 2 minutes, and then they sit down and actually execute the writing assignment. Sort of breaking things down and interspersing physical activity or just brain breaks, I think is really important.
Yeah. We also talked before about incorporating in-home learning and other things that are not just academic to break up those sessions.
Absolutely. I mean, especially if you have children where you're not stuck having to do 6 hours worth of assignments, but even if you do, I mean, you can bake with your child, you can garden with your child, you can have your child help you clean windows, you can build things with your child. I mean, my daughter has now gotten into, for better or for worse, gardening. I am not a gardener, so this is really child-led, and I already feel bad for the plants, but we're now gardening. Yeah. So that means now we're watching videos about gardening, and she's reading books on gardening, and she's really getting into, she wants to write a how-to piece, a procedural, like how to plant a garden. So right now, everything we're doing, even though it's fairly academic, is completely child-led whenever I can. But it's still, if I go through state standards, she's still hitting all the standards that she would be taught in elementary school. I'm just thinking, every day, a little bit of reading, a little bit of math, and then either something sciencey or something social studies. And I would say if you have younger children, that's sort of how you should think about your day.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
I mean, I think that real life learning also leads to connection. And I think connection is extremely important right now.
Yeah.
You know, their connection with you, them not feeling like, you know, they can't see their friends, especially if they're an only child, that gets very lonely. So really thinking about what can we read together, how can we talk, let's play board games, let's cook together. So you can really foster that constant interaction and communication.
Yeah.
Because if all the interaction and communication that the children are currently getting is via a screen, that's going to lead to a certain amount of detachment. And even for us as adults, right, we need to connect with other people. So making sure that you have time every day, even if it's just 2 or 3 minutes, because you've got multiples and a job, to sit down and sort of reflect. I mean, the first couple of days we did school here, we sat for the last 5 minutes and talked about how did that go? What was hard? What can we do differently tomorrow? And there were times when my daughter said, oh, you know, I needed a break here, or I told you I was hungry and you told me that I couldn't get food right now. And so we troubleshotted and did it together. And now she really does sit within reason.
Yeah, there's definitely an adjustment period.
Of course,
and I think
for the kids and the parents.
Yeah. And just really important too that you emphasized in the beginning that this is more than homeschooling. I think a lot of parents are terrified that they're going to screw up their kids' education and that they're going to be behind when all this is over. And I think we just have to relax and
I mean, are your is it possible that your children are going to be behind what they would have been had school gone on? Yes, because you're not a trained professional. Teachers go to school, they get master's degrees to figure out how to get a child engaged and how to teach them and how to keep them going when they lose their courage, or how to get them to take a risk to learn something new. These are things that teachers are trained to do. Yeah. The average parent is not a teacher, but what everybody has to keep in mind is everybody's going to be behind. Yeah. All children are going to be a little bit behind, and when they go back to school, whenever that is, those trained teachers are going to differentiate and meet those needs and teach like crazy, and the gap is going to close again. So everybody needs to just do what they can, take a deep breath, relax, and focus on connection, focus on interaction, and focus on keeping it joyful, because there's a lot of anxiety out there right now for both kids and adults. So if that means that everybody takes a break for a moment, or we play a board game together, or we make a silly song up or something to make light, I think that would be good for everybody. Yeah.
Also, as I understand from talking to other moms, there's a big difference in the amount of actual virtual classrooms. I think when we went into it, we thought, there's going to be a lot of teaching going on from the teachers in Zoom or whatever tool they're using. But in the end, it really does fall mainly upon mom and dad, often mom, to do the bulk of the actual work.
Right. I mean, I think that varies. Obviously, where you are, there are some areas where there is a lot of virtual teaching going on. And I do think, again, it's an adjustment period. I don't think most departments of education were ready for early childhood remote learning. I think that adjustment was much easier on college level or even high school level, when it's mostly papers and Google Docs and all of that can be done. But for early childhood education, they're all scrambling now to try to figure out what to do. So I do think that, at least from what I've heard, slowly more direction is coming, at least in the public school districts. Teachers are starting to, read aloud to children via Zoom, have morning meetings. They're starting to give feedback via Google Classroom for work that's turned in. So at least you sort of have some guidance on where you should go next. But it is a huge equity issue, because it seems like in some areas and for some schools that was pretty much instantaneous, and for some areas and some schools it's still not happening. Yeah. And then you also have families who don't have the access to the devices, even if there was remote learning. So there's so many factors at play
Yeah.
that, again, all I can say is we're in uncharted territory, and we're all just trying to do our best. And in the end, that's all we can be expected to do.
Yeah. So I'm just looking through some of the questions that some moms send to me. And this thing about having a designated area in your apartment or your house, is that important to make up some sort of space that feels like this is school, here's where we do our work? Or is it okay to do some things on the couch or even on the floor or by the kitchen table and switch it up depending on how your day is going?
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. When you read a book for yourself, for your own personal self, where are you most comfortable reading?
In bed or on the couch?
Okay, so I ask this question a lot when moms ask me this or when teachers ask me this, and nobody has ever said to me, oh, I prefer to sit at a desk with my feet flat on the ground. That is my favorite place to read.
Yeah.
No. So if your child has an easier time reading in bed, but they're reading, let them read in bed. Or if they have an easier time writing, a lot of children have an easier time writing or coloring, laying on their bellies on the floor. Why fight it?
Yeah.
You know, we are butting heads with our children about so many things these days that really shouldn't need to be the case. Now, there are some children who function best that way. So it really is a matter of watch your child, and if they can sustain themselves in bed, then they can do it in bed or on the floor. If they can't, then perhaps at the kitchen table might be the place to do it. And if that doesn't work, then yes, we are going to have to designate a place. But I always try with the least amount of restriction and see how the child can function, and then get more and more restrictive if needed.
That's good. That's a good idea. So I have another question, and this is from a mom who has kids, I think, between 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Should we let children do independent work and check it when they're done? Because if we sit with them, guiding them constantly, are we telling them that they can't be successful on their own? So this might be from like 10 and up, or 8, 9.
So
how do we
same
balance?
Situation, right? Start with the least amount of support and restriction as possible. And if the child cannot function, then you start giving the support. So yes, at first I would absolutely try to have the child do it independently.
Yeah.
And then I would check it, or maybe give them even some reminders towards the end. And if that doesn't work, then yes, I might have to check it more often. Like, you write a little bit, you bring it to me, you write some more, you bring it to me. If that doesn't work, yes, I might have to sit next to my child to keep them going. But I always try, assuming they're going to be able to do it independently.
Yeah, good. What other questions?
Oh, a big question I get all the time is resources. Where can we find things? So a couple of things that I'm really liking these days, for the really younger kids, ABC Mouse is free at the moment. It's usually not, but right now, because of what's going on, everything is free. So that's a really good one. For pre-K through 2nd grade, Scholastic has made a group of remote learning modules. And they're really good. There's a read aloud, a book that they listen to, a book they have to read themselves, then a video they watch, and then there's an activity. And they're these short modules that are either science or social studies based. And they take about a half an hour to do. Kids can do them totally independently. So you can get a phone call in. So that's a really good one. If you are looking for books, if you don't have enough, your child's currently obsessed with sharks and you need books on sharks, we're not going to the library, what are we doing? There's a website called Epic Books.
Yes, we use that. That's
totally
great.
free.
Yeah.
They use it, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then if you are looking for books that your child might be able to read on their own, if they're an early reader, so kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and they need some books at a slightly easier reading level, Raz Kids is a really good website. It's called Reading A to Z. And again, usually it does cost something, but right now it's free. And then the last resource that I sometimes use if you need let's say your child needs word problems for math, or your child needs a graphic organizer for beginning, middle, end. There is a website called Teachers Pay Teachers, and all of those resources are made by teachers and put up there, and many of them are free and some you can pay for. But you can do a search specifically for free resources, and all kinds of games and sight word bingo and all these things will start popping up at you. It's a little bit of a hole you can go down. It's like, all this stuff, you can spend tons of hours, but that's one of my favorite resources too.
Great, thank you.
And then the only other place that I can suggest is if people join my Facebook page, I often post resources there, so you can search Literacy with Ease on Facebook. And I often, as I come across resources or other articles or videos that I find might be helpful, I'm posting those there.
Super. And I will also be posting all of these suggestions, and maybe adding some that we're using too for everybody to check out, because there is a lot of free tools right now, which is amazing.
Yes. Oh, there's one more, the virtual field trips. Have you seen that one?
That I haven't seen.
Oh my goodness. I'll send you that link too to post for everybody. You can go to the zoo. You can go to museums all over the world. We've been to the Louvre. Like it is pretty amazing. And that's all free as well.
That sounds great. Super. Wow. So last, which we didn't touch upon, but since this is such a stressful situation, both for us as parents and our kids, how do we look out for mental health, like making sure that we're all doing okay, because we still have to function as a family unit. Both parents might be working. My husband's locked up in the bedroom 24/7, and Dex and I are out here and trying to make this space work for work and school. And it's getting a little stressful. So how do we think about that and look out for signs, especially in our kids, that they're struggling?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that one big tip for that is to really think about how people decompress when they get stressed out. Some people need space to do that. Some people need connections with others to do that. So as you're seeing your child get anxious, either give them a moment to be on their own, or you yourself, if you feel your own anxiety rising. Some people get replenished by being with others, and others might need to go take a hot shower or give themselves a moment. So that's definitely one. Being fairly direct and honest with what we're trying to get accomplished. So in the morning, I might say to my daughter, okay, Naya, I have 3 phone calls today. And so there are 3 times today that I need time for me. And she'll say, no, she's 7. What time is that? How long will it be?
Yeah.
So I tell her.
That's what I did today.
And sometimes she comes in if she's in between things. So what I had given her to do before we got started was she was supposed to read to herself, and we set a timer. And when the timer went on, she was supposed to go on her coding app. Those are both 2 things that she can do on her own. Yeah. She might have come in between and said, oh, I'm having some trouble. I might have helped her for 2 seconds, but then she knows she needs to go back out. So sort of laying out the day in the morning to say, these are the parts that we're going to spend together, and that I'm going to be all there for you. And then these are the parts I'm going to need to have phone calls. And I do think that if your child is any older than 5 or 6, that is a conversation that you can have with your children.
Yeah. And then also, I think to schedule maybe virtual play dates.
Oh, yeah.
Is a huge incentive for them to know that when you're done with all this, we're going to call Alex, or we're going to call Sean, or whatever, friend might be available to have a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that goes back to connection, right? That's what we're all lacking at the moment is interpersonal connection. So have a play date. Mom, have a play date too. Yes. Make sure you call your friends.
Absolutely.
I have some friends that have started watching movies together via Zoom. One person shares their screen and the movie is up on the projector. They've done karaoke parties. They've done games. My daughter tried to play Go Fish with a friend via Zoom the other day. That did not work. But, we're
worth a try.
We've done dance parties via Zoom. So
cool.
Her friends are dancing in their room and my daughter's dancing here. I got her a walkie-talkie so she can talk to the neighbors' kids. It's all about connecting.
Fun. That's fun.
But that's, I think, how to stay most calm, to have a predictable routine that we do follow every day, to talk through the day in the morning and say, these are sort of the chunks of our day, and then emphasize connection.
Yeah. And I think also someone said to remember that you are always mom first.
Oh, yeah.
Like, don't put on the teacher hat and forget that you're mom, because this is a very different.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong to say, I don't know how to teach you this. Give me a second. Or,
Yeah.
you know what, let's take a break here. Mommy needs to look at it again. Or to say, you know what, maybe we've had enough of this for today. We'll try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And in the end, I mean, yes, it seems very big right now, but in the lifetime of someone's educational lifetime, this is just a very short time span. And the children will go back to school to those that know how to do this most properly. And in the end, they will look back on this as a historical event. So with older children, I would even suggest chronicling this, write a journal through this, you know, make a timeline, because this is the type of event that they will read about in history books in years to come.
Yeah. That's a great way to end. Thank you so much, Tonia. That was a lot of really valuable information and tips and insights. And I think just to remember that we're all in this together, like you said, and we will pull through. We don't know how long it's going to take, but one day at a time, and just to try to keep that connection and make our kids feel safe and happy in all this.
Exactly. Thank you so much for having me. And
thank you. And
your
also,
viewers have any,
yeah, go ahead.
If you have any more questions, please let Maria know, and we'll do a quick follow-up. And
yeah, that's what
we hope that everybody stays safe and healthy and connected.
Yes. So DM me, put some comments in if you have any questions, and we'd be happy to do a follow-up call for you guys. So thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.